Hi, I'm Rocket with Wreckless Blenders and welcome to Musings from Rocket Cellars. Today's session, I'm going to talk a little bit about a trip Miss Rocket and I took recently down through Santa Barbara into San Diego. Talk a little bit about some of the wines that we got to taste on that trip. Spend a little bit of time talking about the 2019 Barbera and a few upcoming things. Let's get started. Now, one thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is I'm tasting the 2019 Barbera. So I'll give a little bit of tasting notes here in a few minutes. But an interesting thing happened with the glasses that I had stored in a box. I found them to have a cardboard smell. And it turns out there was a little bit of moisture got into the cardboard where the boxes, where the bottles, where the glasses were stored. And that smell came up into the bowl of the glass. So when I stick my nose in it, I get cardboard. Now, cardboard is a nose that you'll get in some wines. It is not a good smell to have. It is not something positive. I swapped glasses and realized, it's the glass. I need to rinse my glass and get a different one. So if you ever get that cardboardy smell when you stick your nose in, then check the glass. Make sure that you're not, sometimes it's musty, this was cardboardy, right? So it's something to definitely check if you're getting some odd flavors out of a wine. So recently, Miss Rocket and I took a trip down to San Diego. There's a long story behind why we went to San Diego. On the way, I'm not going to tell it to you here because it's too long, and it's hers to tell, not mine. But on the way there, we went through Santa Barbera, and there is a general manager of a winery there near Santa Barbara that Miss Rocket went to high school with, and the general manager. And unfortunately, we missed her while we were visiting this winery out in the middle of this very interesting set of rolling hills and some granite and some nice big, huge plots of land with lots of grapes on them. Amazingly big facility. I mean, lots and lots of tanks. It just was one of those full-on industrial strength wineries. And the wines were pretty good. They were Pinot and Chardonnay centric, and most of the Santa Barbara area that is there, because of the cool breezes that come through, it's great growing climate for Pinots and Chardonnays. They did have some other interesting grapes there. Most of the stuff was Pinot and Chardonnay. We ended up going to a handful of places. One of our favorites was J. Wilk, and then Frequency. So if you ever get down into the Santa Barbara area, there's a ton of places to go. And we stayed in Santa Barbara proper to do wine tasting. We did not want to be driving all over. We did look up the Sideways map, of course, right? That's where Sideways, the movie, is filmed in Santa Barbara. And we decided that's a little too much to do. So we said, let's stay in. There's 10, 12 different wineries, maybe more. I think there was even more, kind of in the urban wine district in Santa Barbara. Fantastic stuff. It was wonderful, great people, vibrant. The climate was amazing. I mean, it was like 72 to 78 the whole time. So highly recommend if you ever make your way down the coast of California to hit Santa Barbara. We then proceeded to head down to San Diego, where we got to see superfan Bob Ramirez, and he and his wife was Miss Rocket's college roommate. So very cool. And we reconnected with them a few years ago when I was down in I went down to San Diego for work, and I was able to connect with them. It turns out Bob is a huge Wreckless Blenders fan. So I decided, since I was driving down the coast with Miss Rocket, that I'd take him a full-on Wreckless wine day tasting. So it brought down a whole bunch of bottle splits, thank goodness, and then a whole bunch of other tastings out of my personal stash to share with him. And we're thinking about hosting a little tasting party down there at San Diego at his place at some time in the near future. That'd be really, really kind of cool. If anyone watching this is interested in that, let me know. rocket@wrecklessblenders.com. We can see what we can do. Have a friend who's having her 60th birthday party this coming weekend, and I'm unable to make it because of harvest. We're thick into harvest. But Miss Rocket's going to go and do a little tasting and explain what's going on with the wines. It's pretty cool, and we're willing to do that if you have a party or an event or a special occasion that you want. Let us know. We can talk about it and see what it's going to take. So the 2019 Barbera. Now the other day, it was at the Wreckless Wine Day in Concord, and I put this later in the lineup because it's a heavier wine. I hadn't realized that. Barbera is Barbera. It's always light. It's always bright. At least the Wreckless Barbera is light and bright. Well, it turns out this year, the 2019, has got a lot more tannins and a lot more structure than it has in the past. So it's a surprisingly robust wine. And here's the thing, right? I'm going off of previous years, my preconceived notion based on previous years. It's a different year, different growing conditions, different blend. So all those things go to influence what's happening here. And I had to reset my whole perception about where this went in the lineup. So normally it would go early in the lineup. Sometimes it would be first. And what I was finding is if I had the Barbera first, the 2018s the 2018 specifically, if I put that first, it overpowered the Sangiovese, which was usually second on our lineup. So I swapped them. I put the Sangiovese first, and then later I'd have the Barbera, and that allowed the Sangiovese, that silky, smooth, cherry, beautiful, all those flavors that are subtle and interesting from Sangiovese, they allowed to be highlighted. Then the Barbera would show up and say, hey, I'm here, I'm all bright and happy, and let's party. That helped a lot in shifting that. Now there's another thing I did, which surprised the heck out of me and others, is I decided, well, I'm gonna put the Fiano after the Sangiovese. Now Fiano's a white wine. Well, it's got a nice rose tint to it, but it is a white wine. The normal guidelines is you put white wines first. Why is that? Well, it tends to go by heaviness, right? So the lighter goes early and the heavier wines go later. And that has to do with fatigue of your palate and your taste buds and overpowering and you need the bigger flavors later. Just like you have the big main course at the end, and that's the big flavor of food. Same thing with wine. Now that is a guideline. And you can go the other way, and you can be random if you want. It's discipline that's required to do that. And one of the big things is the 3-sip rule, right? Make sure you're sipping the wine 3 sips before you understand if you like it. And if you've had a heavier wine and you're going to a lighter wine, it's really important. It doesn't hurt in between those if you have a bite to eat. Make sure it's clean and make sure it's not something super spicy. So, water crackers, that kind of stuff is great if you need to cleanse your palate in between if you're going reverse. Sometimes it's just the way it happens, right? You go reverse. So anyway, I'm wandered off a little bit on this path. Let's come back and talk about the Barbera, the 2019 Barbera. So I decided this last Concord Wine Day, Wreckless Wine Day, that I'd put the Barbera near the end. Because I was like, this is bigger than I expect. And so it went after the Wreckless Red, it went after the Touriga, it went after the Dayglow, and it basically went right before the Sagrantino. Right? Sagrantino is huge, lots of tannins, big flavors. This thing, that was where it belonged. I don't know if that's going to be the case from now on, but for that day, it certainly did. And by the time we got there in the tasting, bam, it was on fire. It was in fuego. It was just perfect. So I wanted to just spend a minute here and talk a little bit about it, because one of the things that's happened is the Barbera is one of these particular grapes. Now the Touriga and the Dayglow, and not necessarily the Dayglow, but the Touriga does this a little bit as well. It goes through a funky phase, not bad funky, just awkward, right? It's puberty or whatever you want to call it. It's been bottled, it's good for about 3-4 months, it's tasting fantastic. Then it goes into a dumb phase and it gets kind of awkward and just, it's not all together. I think of a puzzle, all the pieces of a puzzle on the table. You can see the picture, but the pieces aren't together. It takes another 3 or 4 months for all those pieces to start to come together. In particular, my experience with the Barbera is January timeframe of the following year after bottling, it tends to start that coming together. Like this last year, the 2018, which we're unfortunately sold out of, it came together in about April, May. And I remember looking over at Jim Brown at one of the Wreckless Wine Days and going, this is fantastic. And it was just a beautiful thing. So I'm suspecting that's what's going to happen here. It's good. It's great, actually. Let me not mince words. It's a great wine right now. It's not as great as it's going to be in 3 to 4 months. I sound like I'm backpedaling, and I'm not. So let's just take a moment here and do a little tasting. So first things first, of course, you're going to sniff it. Lots of blue fruit, lots of, just beautiful nose. It's just coming together. So way more tannins than I expect. And I had to figure out what I was fighting. I was actually fighting this. When I tasted it, I thought, well, it's not good because it doesn't taste like our Barbera. Well, it actually does. The flavors are there, but there's this really strong structured tannins there. It doesn't dry your mouth out. It's not like the oak tannins out of a big, heavy cab. It just goes and suck all the moisture out of your mouth. It does. It's a structure, so it's very. You can almost feel it like this. And then it's got this nice brightness that comes right back up into the mouth, right back up here, almost into the ears. You know how you, oh, yeah. And the flavors are just amazing. And they come together and they're so long, they're still going. Yeah, and it keeps going. So one of the things to try, if you get one of the, whoa, yeah, there it is. Okay, so this has been open for about an hour now, and yeah, this is starting to really show up, and especially as I've reset my expectations, and I've said this is a big tannic wine with a nice brightness to it, clean flavors. Yeah, good. I mean, this is fantastic. And by the way, just a quick shout out to Andy and Elizabeth Stevenson up there in Shaker Ridge. I know this harvest year has been pretty crazy. Thank you for working with us on all the different things we're getting there. We're looking forward to it. We're picking up the Touriga this weekend, and we're crushing Barbera and picking up Touriga, and then fingers crossed getting the Sangiovese. So Sangiovese from Bob Gibson, a little bit of in question this year, lower yield, earlier harvest than normal. So we're hoping, fingers crossed, because that's what we make our rosé out of. And yeah. Okay, so moving on, coming back to this. So shout out to the folks at Shaker Ridge, Andy and Elizabeth. You guys are rock stars. All right, the finish on this continues to just keep going. There's a brightness. Okay, one of the things to try with this wine is some food. So do your 3 sips, make sure you understand what it is, but then try it with some food. If you eat meat, if you eat salamis, this would go really well with a nice, actually you could go pretty spicy, but start with something not spicy. I bet this goes really well with it. I bet this goes well with cranberry and turkey. Right, so for Thanksgiving this year, this might be a fantastic, because you know the turkey's got those flavors to it that are kind of dull anything in there. So you've got, that's why white wines go really well with turkey, because the acidity in the wines kind of stands up to the turkey. And stuffing, you know, stuffing's not super wine friendly. Out of the, you know, just any wine, you have to be pretty cognizant of it because it's got those savory flavors to it. Touriga would go well. You got savory with savory, or you have kind of the opposite. You have the super bright with the savory. Barbera has been one of my go-to wines for the holidays, with the ham, with the turkey, and then Touriga as well, especially as a second wine with the holiday dinners. I know it's too early to be talking about the holidays, so don't worry, we're gonna move on. But this would go really well with a lot of different foods, and it will, having the food mixed in the mouth and help with that brightness and kind of offsetting a little bit. I bet this is a super good food wine. And well, Rocket, haven't you tried it? No, I haven't. I haven't tried it with food yet. I haven't figured that part out. Mostly been having this during tastings. This is the first time I've opened one individually just to try it. So maybe I'll split this up, and then with my next meal I cook, I'll try it with some food. There is still debate on we're definitely having the next Carmichael Winery Wreckless Wine Day end of the month, end of September. It will be noon to 4, normal times, 4-ish, and drop by. Now the question is going to be, is this going to be a catered event with food in the backyard and hanging out or not? And the variable for us right now is harvest. So we've got multiple wines we have to press, we have to, you know, crush at least 2 more grapes. And that's heavy duty work. And how do we balance that with hosting a big party? So it might be we do it in October. Don't know yet. Okay. Keep an eye out. I'm just telling you, it's still up in the air. I wanted to make a big announcement, but you know, it's not something we've been able to nail down just quite yet with all of the harvest happening the way it's happened this year. Next Concord curbside is the following week, the first weekend in October 2nd, from noon to 4-ish. Please drop by. It'll be a great time here in Concord. So past that, I'm not going to speculate past that right now, because so many things going on. But keep an eye out here. Keep an eye out on the website, the Facebook page, the email newsletter. We'll keep you up to date as much as we can. Awesome. Well, hey, I hope you're all staying safe and healthy. Keep your spirits up. Drink some Wreckless, that helps. And I'm Rocket. This has been another Musings from Rocket Cellar. All right. So here's the thing. For a few months there, I was like, it's not ready to open. And it was because of the tannin structure. The tannin structure just threw me. I didn't understand what I was drinking, because Barbera and tannins aren't necessarily something I equate. So preconceived notions definitely played a big part here. By resetting those and changing up how I tasted this, it has really made a big difference. It's you know, there's this sense of, well, I'm not really happy with it. I'm happy as hell with this. This is a fantastic glass of wine. What it is throwing me for is that it's a gap in my expectations. So good lesson to learn. Definitely.